Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 3 is now streaming on Disney Plus. I'm going to give you my thoughts on this episode. The last episode had a great cliffhanger because not only did we see sort of the rise of U.S. Agent in that episode and his conflict with Sam and Bucky, but in the last episode it ended with the first appearance since Civil War of Zemo. And this episode was really centered around him as Sam and Bucky go to him to get his help. And actually, speaking of U.S. Agent, the very beginning of this episode showed that this guy's got an attitude problem, and I'm wondering if, that's going to lead to something later on. It seems pretty predictable, to be honest with you, because it seems like what they're doing is they're trying to tell us that, U.S. Agent is not Steve Rogers, which is obvious. We kind of already know that. But at the same time, for the purposes of storytelling, I don't mind them saying that, because the whole point is that being Captain America is not just about waving around a shield. There's other aspects of it, and I think that's kind of the idea. That it's a more complicated job than we thought. But Zemo, first of all, Zemo's awesome. He's one of my favorites. I mean, Civil War is still my favorite MCU movie. I love that film, and he is a big reason as to why. I mean, he's not the only reason, but he was a great villain because he was able to manipulate the Avengers into fighting each other, and yet he doesn't have any powers, and that makes him really interesting. And the way he carries himself in the episode is just, he's a riveting actor, a riveting character. Also, they did some stuff with the Flag Snatchers, trying to give us a little bit more sympathy for the characters, and it was well done. I mean, this show really does feel like a Captain America movie, like an MCU one. Obviously, the MCU films are all tied together, same with the TV show, but this show feels nothing like WandaVision. And when you watch something like, let's say, Thor or Spider-Man or, Guardians of the Galaxy, they all have sort of this different feel to them. Iron Man too. Not just because they have different directors, that's obvious, and different visions as far as how the films kind of, are presented. But Captain America movies, and 2 and 3 were done by the Russos. They have a certain feel to them that's a little bit different from Avengers movies, and they have a certain soundtrack, and they're a bit slower, more thought-provoking, and this show really is reminiscent of that. And I love the fact that the Russos did 2 Captain America movies and 2 Avengers movies, and even though it's all one big story, they feel differently. They're presented differently. And I like that. Even though Civil War felt a bit more like an Avengers film because you had Iron Man and Vision, everybody else there, still, this show captures that Captain America feel that we felt in Winter Soldier and Civil War. I just noticed it watching this week's episode. And the big plot of the episode is that Zemo and Bucky and Cap have to, pretend to be these other characters and sneak into this, kind of slimy, grungy bar area type of thing. And of course, what ends up happening, and I'm doing this review assuming you've seen the episode already. So, spoilers, of course. If you haven't seen it, it's on Disney Plus. But every week I cover with the plot. But I really like this scene because, Sam's sister, who we got to know in the first episode, is the one that kind of rats him out by calling. And yeah, things get bad for him, as you saw. And I like that scene a lot. And so they find the guy who created the super soldier serum. So again, this all ties back, and it's interesting that it goes back to that. If you're a Bucky fan, there's a lot of new stuff here for you. A lot of stuff to expand that character and his history. We find out what happens to the super soldier serum and what he did with it, and then we have this action sequence where we finally see, right before that, we finally see Baron Zemo with his mask on, his purple mask. It's not exactly like the one in the comics, but it is a reference to it. And yeah, I expected that at some point, because people were talking about how him working with Sam and Bucky was a cool thing, and it was. But I expected at some point he was going to turn, bro. The trailer came out a while back, so I don't remember if they actually show him turning in that trailer. I know he was only there briefly. I don't recall what they showed. It's been months. I legit don't remember. But just based on that character and how cunning and how ruthless Zemo was and how dedicated he was to winning and getting what he wanted, I mean, he's a villain, bro. He ain't going to be teaming up with them for a very long time. But, of course, they realize that no matter what, they need him because they want to find Carly, and that's the goal here. That's the true enemy, so they have to work with him at least temporarily, but it's not going to last. I don't think it will anyways. I mean, Sam doesn't trust him, and they're kind of stuck, but I like that. Like, I like the fact that it all ties back to what we found out in Civil War. I really do enjoy that. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention Sharon Carter. I almost forgot. Yeah, Sharon Carter, Peggy's niece, is here. We haven't seen her since Civil War also. So it all is coming back. And, I wonder if they're going to end up, because they didn't do it here, I wonder if they're going to end up telling her what happened to Cap. Or I wonder if when Cap went back in time, again, that time travel stuff is weird in the MCU because it would have affected a different timeline, but whatever, that's a different story, different video. I wonder if, and she's definitely a lot more hard than she used to be, but what I was going to say was I wonder if she's going to end up finding out what really happened to Captain America, or if she already knows. That there's no indication that she does know, but I'm wondering if, it's not really a huge deal, but it's still interesting. But I like how they're developing both the good guys and the bad guys, and Zemo is like, a little bit of both, mostly bad, and it's a complex show, but again, the Captain America movies have always kind of been like that, because with the exception of maybe the Red Skull, and Hydra, like, remember Civil War, like, that was, there were, like Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Crawl said there were heroes on both sides, and I walked out of that movie. I love that movie, but I walked out of it wondering, like, I don't even know whose side I'm on. I know people pick, Team Cap or Team Tony, but they both really had solid points, as far as what their belief system is. Sam's moment where he finally realizes, like, maybe I should not have given up the shield. Maybe I should have, not put it in a museum. I like that. I like that a lot. I like when you have a main character who is unsure of himself and has respect for the previous main character. I mean, it's all part of Sam's... I wasn't sure if Sam could carry this show, but Sam and Bucky together are doing a good job, I think. Also, I have a smile on my face because the cliffhanger for this episode... Yeah, Wakanda's coming after Zemo because I guess they realize now that, he was the guy that really killed the king, back in Civil War, and he's going to have hell to pay for that. So, yeah. Now, what I want to know, and I don't have an answer, I don't remember, was this show shot before the passing of Chadwick Boseman or after? That's what I think it was before he passed away, but I remember him being pretty sick before he died. So I'm genuinely curious if maybe in this show, if they taped it when they knew that Chadwick Boseman was terminally ill, or if it was after he passed away, or maybe some editing afterward. I wonder if they're going to address if they're even going to address him as T'Challa, or as the Black Panther, or if they're going to have somebody else. I have a lot of questions now. This is a great cliffhanger because Wakanda has been a big mystery for me. And I feel like it's because of Chadwick Boseman's passing, because if he didn't die, the plan was to do Black Panther 2, and he was going to be Black Panther. I mean, it was going to just keep going, and he was going to be a staple of the MCU. But now that he passed away, I'm not really sure what they're going to do, and I really am wondering what they're going to do, actually. And maybe we'll get a clue on the next episode. So I had fun with this. Again, good series. I'm not as invested in it as I was WandaVision, honestly. Maybe because I'm cautious, because WandaVision's finale was like kind of, a little bit of a letdown. Not too much. I didn't hate it, but it was a little bit of a letdown. I expected more. So here I just want to have fun, and so far it is fun. So I can't complain. Episode 4 next week. WrestleMania is next weekend, so I don't know when I'm going to see it. I may see it late, but I'll have a review up on the channel at some point. Thank you again for checking it out. What did you think about episode 3? And I'll talk to y'all soon.